day. What does that do to you?
Well, really, it doesn't do much anything other than just make you wait another day. You know, all the circumstances, everything's the same. You know, getting ready for the race, and you'll go through the same game plan just a day later.
But what about tonight? You know, you've run the race in your mind. You've thought about it. We've had 25 days of May here in Indianapolis, and now it's going to be 26. Normally, tomorrow night, you'd be going to the victory dinner.
Well, it's, you know, just not, there's nothing you can do about it, so it doesn't do any good to worry about it. You just, you know, try to get a good night's sleep. It's going to be a little bit tougher than it was last night, I think. But, you know, you just got to kind of say this is the way it is and just get on with it.
Well, on the inside row for the 1986 Indianapolis 500 is the 500 champion from '85, and your teammate. Is he going to play any head games on you, Danny Sullivan, tonight? Maybe try and talk you out of the setup?
No, I don't think he will. I don't think.
Danny, what about your routine from now until 11 a.m. when they say, gentlemen, start your engines?
Well, I think it's just like Rick said. We can't do anything about it. We just got to go through the same process again and try to get a good night's sleep. Maybe the crowd's going to be a little rowdier out there. Another day with drinking, but there's nothing we can do. We just have to sit here and wait, try to keep an even temperament, because you never know when we're actually going to get to start.
Is it kind of like being a fighter pilot on call, that you're going to get the call and have to, like a fireman, go down the pole, come out here, get ready, strap in the car? Or do you just kind of sit back at the hotel? In fact, what did you guys do at the hotel this morning? Rick, was there anything special you did when Roger called and said, stay where you're at, it's raining?
No, not really. Just kind of relaxed a little bit and watched whatever racing I could find on TV to watch. And, you know, it was really bad. It's pretty good just being able to relax over there and not have to really come out and get involved in everything. And it just lets you kind of settle yourself down and get ready for the race itself.
How about Danny Sullivan? What did you do?
Same thing. I sat there and watched the Belgium Grand Prix on TV, saw a little bit of other racing, and basically just sat there and waited for it to stop. There's really nothing you can do. You're just on hold, and you sit there and hope for the best, hope it stops raining.
Well, let's go to the outside of row one, and standing by with him is my colleague, Al Troutwig. Al?
Jack, I want to make one observation. Michael's chair is slightly ahead here in the front row. I don't know what that means. Michael, I know this morning you, as these guys did, watched a little of the Belgian Grand Prix. What are you going to do when you get back to the motel this afternoon and PKA Contact Karate is on?
Try to look for another race if we can. You know, we'll just sit back and relax, and hopefully we'll be able to get this race underway tomorrow. But if not, just going to have to wait. You know, it's the same for everybody, so that's the way it goes.
Sam Posey, Jim McKay, and Jim Lampley were talking before about how racing really brings out the little kid in big men. As a little kid who has seen his big day washed away, perhaps, what is that like? Is it a real big disappointment?
Well, it's a little disappointing because you're all geared up, ready to go, and then you got to sit and wait again. So it's going to be another uneasy night, you know, the night before again. But, you know, it's just, you just can't do anything about it, so you just got to try to have patience.
No problem effect on the car with the rain at all?
No, in fact, probably be a little better because it'll clean up the track even more, and you'll probably see even quicker times.
What do you think of the guys you're on the front row with?
They're tough, real tough.
You know, Al, we saw one thing when we were getting ready to do this piece. It looked like Michael was trying to crowd these two guys. Is that a shade of things to come?
No, I don't think so. We've kind of talked about the start, and I think we all agree that the first lap doesn't mean anything. We all want the last lap. So I think we're going to, you know, use our heads and get through the first turn as even as possible.
Well, that's the story from inside Gasoline Alley. Larry Newber's got the story out on the start-finish line.
And boy, am I envious of where you are. We're outside where it is definitely raining, and an update from Tom Binford, who just came in off the track.
Well, it's still raining at the moment. We've really lost the track that we almost had a little bit ago. I think we were within maybe 25, 30 minutes of starting the race. It'll be a good 2 hours, 2.5 when it stops raining for us to probably get it safe again. So I don't know. I'm not very optimistic at this moment.
Yeah, Tom, when you got out of the van, you said to me, for the first time today, my mind and attitude has changed to pessimism.
I'm afraid it has, or realism. But we're going to stay at it, and we're going to stay at it long enough to make sure that if we can have a race, and I mean at least a 101-lap race.
So, Tom, what does that mean in terms of time of day? How late can we wait to start this race to dry the track before we can get in 101 laps?
Well, there's a lot of ifs in that, but I certainly, at this time of year in this cloudy weather, you wouldn't be wanting to race much past 6:30. So you back that up 2.5, say 3 hours, and you're at 3:30. But you know, possibly we should go ahead and run if we have a hope of getting in over 101 laps, but they're back at 4:30. So I don't know. I would guess probably at 4:30 we should be on the track if we're going to have a race that's at least 250 miles today.
Well, the excruciatingly long day continues, Jim.
Okay, Larry. You know, gentlemen, the drivers, most of them seem to try to mask the tension, I think. After all, here we are. We're sitting up here. All we're waiting to do is to talk about the race. But I must confess that I've gone through several down periods. Then you get up with the race looking like it's going to start. And I know tonight is going to be very frustrating and will be, in a sense, difficult to get up, don't you think? Tomorrow morning, what must they feel? You know?
I couldn't agree more. In fact, one of the things that's astonished me in this situation, and where as you're pointing out, there's a great deal more pressure on them than us. We owe a debt of thanks to a lot of drivers and crew chiefs and car owners today who've helped us out in a tough situation. I think it's worth saying once, we've been on the air for about 4 hours, and to any of you who are watching, without you guys helping us out, it would have been a great deal more difficult. But they have indeed shown, I think, and we've said it before, remarkable composure in this situation.
Yeah, but of course it's composure and self-control that is the hallmark of the racing driver and the people in racing, because you have to be able to control your emotions. I mean, it's not that hard to control a little disappointment because it's raining. What about controlling the emotions that you feel at the actual moment of the start? You have to be able to do that. So this is relatively easy. But I still believe what I said a long, long time ago now, it seems,
yes.
4 hours ago, that there is an emotional roller coaster going on inside these men, and I know Tom Sneva agreed with that, and I think it's very, very tough for these guys.
Okay, you know, now speaking of the emotional roller coaster, we are now told it has just about stopped raining again. Should it stop within the next 15 minutes or so, we could still have a race here today, believe it or not. Now, Hands Across America is very, very close. Sam Donaldson is standing by in Washington. Let's go to him.
Thanks, Jim. Yes, we're in Washington, but we're about to show you an old tip of Manhattan Island, in the Statue of Liberty's shadow almost, and then stretches across the country all the way to Long Beach, California. About 4,125 miles, and it would take about 5.5 million people in order to actually link this entire route. There's Battery Park in New York, and people already there, ready and able, of course, to hold hands. People paid from $10 to $35 a person to actually stand in line as a volunteer in order to raise the money, and the people who sponsored this hope to raise between $50 and $100 million for the homeless and the hungry in this country. Let's take a look at a map and see how the route goes. From Battery Park in New York, the map will show that we go across the country, down in New Jersey, to Ohio, to Chicago, St. Louis, down to Dallas, Fort Worth, across to Amarillo, Texas, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Phoenix, Arizona, and then to Long Beach, California. And we can take a look now, I suppose, at what's happening in Long Beach in a moment. But here in Washington, of course, people have lined up along the mall, and they've lined up in the driveway of the White House. President Reagan at first said that he thought he would not participate in the Hands Across America ceremony, but then later in the week, having told some high school students that he thought there was not a problem of food in the country, but simply a problem of people knowing where to get it, he changed his mind and decided to participate. At the White House right now, Kenneth has a interview with Maureen Reagan. Come in, Ken, and you're standing there with Maureen.
Sam, of course, we're here with the first daughter, Maureen Reagan, who's also the block organizer for this event. That's more special in this case because in addition to organizing 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Maureen Reagan is probably responsible for the White House participation in the Hands Across America chain. Maureen, tell us how that came about.
Well, the other night when you all reported that the president had been asked and wasn't going to participate, the president was quite surprised because he did not know that he had been asked to physically participate. And though he had issued a proclamation and would be talking about it in his radio address, he said, well, gee, that's something I'd like to be involved in. And, of course, the problem was the security consideration. And I said, well, why can't we just have our official family of the White House be a link between the links of the chain that go across the country? And he thought it was a great idea, and so it happened.
But some people say the president changed his mind after all the criticism he got for his statements on hunger earlier in the week, to wit that there really isn't a shortage of food, just a shortage of information or knowledge on the part of hungry people. Did that come up in your discussion with the president?
No, it didn't, and some people were not there the other night when we had this conversation, and I'm telling you exactly what happened. You can believe me or not.
But none of the controversy at all came into...
It had nothing to do with controversy. It had to do with the fact the president was not aware that he had been asked to physically participate, and he thought it was a wonderful program and wanted to participate, and I figured out how we could.
Have you talked to Mr. Craig, the organizer, lately?
I spoke to Mr. Reagan just a little while ago, and we had a nice conversation about what an exciting program this was and how we wanted to be able to do more in the future, and I congratulated him on it being a great success.
All right, Maureen Reagan, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to talk.
Sam, back to you.
Thank you, Ken. Ken Walker at the White House. And there's a shot from a camera looking at the mall here in Washington, D.C., from the Washington Monument, I think, as we see the people who have turned out. And in about 6 minutes, we'll link hands as part of the chain which begins in New York and comes through the District of Columbia of Hands Across America. It's a good day here in Washington. In fact, along the route, except for such places as Indianapolis, and I think we've seen and heard a lot about the rain there, it's a pretty good day in this country. There are some thunder showers along that Midwest corridor from Indianapolis down into Arkansas. Incidentally, in the Southwest, there are some huge stretches of this line which don't have people on them. There's a shot of the White House in anticipation of President and Mrs. Reagan coming out. In the Southwest, where temperatures reach perhaps 100 degrees at this time of year, the organizers say that they purposely decided not to ask people, and there aren't a number of people in that part of the country, so it was probably a happy decision on their part, but purposely decided not to ask people to line up. And so the Coca-Cola Company and some textile organizations in the South contributed some red ribbon, which will symbolically link those portions of the route where no human beings, just some Gila monsters and perhaps some rattlesnakes can be found. Then we go to Long Beach, California, where we say the actual end of this 4,125-mile line. There it is, Long Beach, in the shadow of the Queen Mary, at the Queen Mary dock, people with balloons. We're told that a homeless family, Bill and Mary Jones and their 5 children, may be the people who are at the end of the line, a homeless family from the Long Beach area. Just as the person who begins this chain is a 6-year-old homeless girl, Amy Sherwood, at Battery Park in New York. It's a good day in California. People have turned out as much in a festive mood, I suppose, as they also have turned out to contribute their time and their effort to show that they care about the homeless and hungry in this country. They paid $10 to $35, and you may ask, what's the difference? Well, if you want to stand in line and not receive a T-shirt, you pay $10. If you want to receive a T-shirt that says Hands Across America, you pay $25. And if you want a T-shirt and a cap with a visor that says Hands Across America, then you pay $35. And of course, anything that you want to contribute is gratefully accepted. So what are the dimensions of the hunger problem in this country? Well, the Agriculture Department estimates that the federal government and the homeless here. The Salvation Army estimates that private groups, charities, spend an additional $10 billion. So if they're anywhere near right, that's $30 billion, and still, apparently that doesn't get the job done. At least people such as Ken Reagan, the man who organized today's Hands Across America line, he is the president of USA for Africa organization, thinks that that's not enough and that more money is necessary. Now, a few minutes ago, we talked to Ken Reagan in New York and asked him whether he was pleased with the way it looked like this was going to develop today.
Well, I think it's already accomplishing what we wanted to. This event is supposed to call attention to these issues, hunger and homelessness in this country. Incidentally, it's going to raise a lot of money, but that isn't the key to it. The key is really that it's going to connect us all with the issues of hunger and homelessness in this country.
That was Ken Reagan, who is the organizer of today's Hands Across America line, linking hands in just about 2 minutes' time, and of course we'll show you then. And people are going to sing 3 songs at that time to voice their solidarity in this effort. Ken Walker is still standing by at the White House. There's a shot of the President and Mrs. Reagan coming out on the north portico That's the side of the White House that faces Pennsylvania Avenue and Lafayette Park. The president dressed in casual wear today, as well he might be, because while the temperature isn't 100 degrees here in Washington, it's warm and it's appropriate. Incidentally, at the White House, once Mr. Reagan's decision to participate was announced, then members of the White House staff and the Secret Service and even reporters were invited to come and help link hands along that circular driveway. There's a shot from the Washington Monument of the south side of the White House, and the president's on the other side there. Ken, Maureen Reagan, who's always a fierce advocate for any cause that she supports, and certainly for her father's causes, tells us we can believe her or not, but there were no politics involved in the president's deciding to come out. That's not what a lot of people have been saying, is it?
Well, no, Sam. A lot of people think that the president was the subject of tremendous criticism after his statement to high school students here at the White House last week that the only problem with hunger is that people just don't have enough information or don't know enough about where to get food, that there's plenty of it out there. And the president, of course, was severely criticized by a number of people for that remark. And it's a little difficult to believe, as you mentioned, that the subject didn't come up in Maureen Reagan's conversation with the president. Nevertheless, the president and about 200 to 300 employees and their families, including members of the White House press corps or press office and the Secret Service, are joined here today to complete the White House link of the Hands Across America chain.
And Ken, if that link is going to be on time, we're only about 5 seconds away from 3 o'clock. And the official chain across 4,125 miles. 3, 2, 1, it's 3 o'clock. Well, at any moment, they're supposed to begin singing
New York City and Ken Cragen,
3 songs.
the organizer of Hands
All right, let's go to
Across
New York and let's watch the man who organized this, Ken Cragen.
Okay, we're going to switch quickly now to Marty Rogel on the West Coast.
No, that's not what we're going to watch. That's not what we're going to hear. But we are seeing in Battery Park at the tip of Manhattan Island people linking hands. And I suppose naturally across the entire country, 16 states and the District of Columbia, we're not going to have a unified singing in one voice. But in various places, at various moments, they'll sing. And here is the Hands Across America song, written particularly for this occasion from Long Beach. Let's listen for a moment, if we can.
Are we ready for countdown? Yes. All right, 10. Everybody count with me. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go with the music.
Balloons released. Their clock was a little slow, but who's counting? In California, in New York, all along the route, they're going to sing Hands Across America, We Are the World, and America the Beautiful. Now let's see if we can pick something up from New York.
Pretending day by day that somewhere soon you could change. We are a part of God's great big family, and the truth, you know, love is all we need. We are the children. We are so let's start giving. There's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true, we make a better day, just you and me. Well, send in your heart.
Now look at the fireboat in New York Harbor. Finally, this is the song Hands Across America, which was written particularly for this occasion, just as We Are the Children was Ken Cragen's song that they wrote for the famine relief effort for Africa. The same organization that sponsored that is sponsoring today's Hands Across America line, a human chain of people linking arms, the President and Mrs. Reagan. The man in the wheelchair is the President's press secretary, Jim Brady. People at the White House, people in New York, New Jersey, Ohio, Illinois, Arkansas, Texas, 16 states in the District of Columbia. This is the new song, of course, so I don't blame the President, or any of us for that matter, for having to look down at some copy when it comes to We Are the Children, much better known, and of course America the Beautiful, which I don't think they've sung yet. Their plan was to sing all three of them. Everybody knows that. Well, now, there's an example of how these things are put together in this country, and I guess there's nothing wrong with it. The United States flag and the flag of the Coca-Cola Company flying together. And the U.S. flag showing the national effort, and corporate sponsors showing that they contribute also to this, as Coca-Cola Company did, along with others. Incidentally, Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus contributed 10 elephants. Now, I don't know whether they are linking paw and, or rather, a tail to a trunk at some spot along the line, but they're part of the celebration. In New Jersey, 700 inmates of the Rawlway Penitentiary linked arms, or at least were supposed to have linked arms at the moment of 3 o'clock across their prison courtyard.
Love and concern for our fellow man and our fellow woman across this country, and the children, the millions of children who are suffering from hunger.
And so we've seen a linking of hands across the country. There will be stretches, of course, where there were no human beings. At least symbolically they will be linked, but a lot of people turned out, and I'm sure we'll have a count on it in the next day or two. I hope to raise $50 to $100 million, and we'll have a count on that. After they raised the money, the organizers said they would decide to which organizations, charitable organizations, they contributed it. Money meant to help the homeless and the hungry in the United States. President and Mrs. Reagan at the White House, people all the way from New York to California, linking hands in a Hands Across America message. And of course, in Indianapolis, they linked them in the rain. Now let's go back to Indianapolis and find out whether there's any chance that they'll be able to run that race today. Back to Jim McKay and Jim Lampley in Indianapolis.
It may be a question of whether we get the race started today or all those trucks out there run out of gas, because